Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Reasonably Effective Podcast. This is episode 40. I'm 10 Types, joined by Uncommon Fossil as always. And today, well, you're kicking us off with the first idea, right?
I have a couple cards I wanted to talk about that I've been working on decks lately. This first one, I think, is one. Well, we'll see what you say. So, I for some reason I came across this card. I don't know why it came across my mind. I saw it someplace and I hadn't gotten attention. Wanted to play it. It's a Radiant Pokemon. This has no love. It has no ability, which isn't good either for a Radiant Pokemon. It is Radiant Eevee, but Twinkle
Yeah,
Gathering. Twinkle Gathering, one energy, colorless energy. Search your deck for a number of cards up to the number of different types of Pokemon you have in play. So potentially you're searching your deck for 6 cards. That's quite good, right? I know, yeah, you can get judged, you can get Ionia, but in which case they're not gusting up something else from the bench with a boss. So that has its own plus to it, right? They're just taking out a single prize Pokemon, most likely, if that's the case. So I was thinking that seems like a card I got to give a try to.
yeah.
It
Okay,
hasn't
so
been
this,
that successful, but I will
yeah,
say
no,
it
it's a card
at
that's
this point.
interesting. I actually recently talked about, I think, on my channel. I was making a tier list of all the control cards. I don't remember if it was on the list or not, but it's okay. I've not played it actually, like ever. I don't think I own it.
Mhm.
It's a promo exclusive.
I picked
So
up in PTCGO. I picked up a copy of each of the Radiant Pokemon, which I was glad to. I'm glad I did that.
okay, yeah. So why are you glad? Isn't it cheap?
It is cheap now, but it wasn't. I'm pretty sure I picked it up before I moved over here. But you can get it cheap now too. But it means I should try them, right? I really should play all the Radiant Pokemon, at least one.
Yeah, and this one, as you said, isn't it's an attacker. It's a control card, right? Like it has to be a control card. I feel like,
Well, I have been
um,
trying an attacking deck, and that might be my mistake.
and what are
Because
these decks?
what deck would you play if you want to play an attacking deck? There's only one
You
deck you
played
could.
in yeah, you played in Sylveon.
And Sylvia, exactly. Sylveon, because you have to set up some, right?
But
So
Sylveon's
if you
a
go,
decently consistent deck. I was playing like someone recommended to me a deck. It was like a Urshifu Fire deck which played Sylveon, and that was cool, and it
Mhm.
was decently consistent as well.
Yeah, I mean, Sylveon V has its own ability to grab an item, which is okay, but that ends your turn. So having that probably Radiant Eevee is not what that deck needs, I think. So you think a
Yeah,
control deck?
yeah, I think it's a controlled card. Because I played with the Furo as well, which is an evolution that lets you search for 3. I played Metagross VMAX
Hmm.
that lets you search for 2. Um, I'm trying to. There's Calyrex. I don't think you here. What type is Calyrex?
I gotta look that one up, don't
Oh,
I?
yeah, it's a quick trivia question.
It's water.
No, it's
Oh,
obviously
oh,
grass.
Calyrex. Oh, okay, it's grass.
Yeah, so
Yes.
there's a grass Calyrex that lets you
And we
search for
need different
cards.
types if we're playing Sylveon, because otherwise it doesn't
Well, I
make
was
any
saying
sense.
Calyrex is it's another Pokemon that searches for cards.
Right.
Which I played, and they're all okay. They're not great though.
Yeah, because you need to do more than just search cards to be able to win with even a control deck.
Yeah. So I think Radiant Eevee is all right. So there are a few issues. One, what Radiant you play. Some controllers play Radiant Greninja, right?
Hmm.
I personally don't like it. I don't think Radiant Greninja is that good in control. Radiant Serena is okay. With Radiant Jirachi, and that's the other one I think you have to compare it to. With Radiant Eevee, you can't get. I mean, you can get judged and Ionoed, which will happen, which is annoying, right? And that's arguably being judged
Yes.
is bad. Um,
Hmm.
and then you could also
Now, Radiant
uh,
Jirachi, when they play Path, then you don't draw
yeah.
your cards. So
So
you don't
that's
want to
like
see
the
Path
big
then.
difference. Um,
And
but then
you can
obviously,
get the big knockout with Radiant Jirachi
yeah. So if you get double
25% of
heads,
the time, but 50 damage for 3 energy on Radiant Eevee, though. You never want to use that, right?
yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yes.
So
So
did
you're
you
not
only
giving.
try it in Sylveon?
I did, and it was okay, but most of the time the Radiant Eevee just sat there on the bench as another type for Sylveon.
Yeah, I don't
Because
think it's.
so probably didn't have a plus. Most of that plays Rapid Strike energies into the Spiral energies, and of course none of those can
Yeah,
attach to Radiant Eevee.
yeah, I definitely
So
wouldn't
even
play
though it's
Spiral
colorless,
Energy.
well, but in the Sylveon box,
Oh, you play? Do you play
I couldn't.
Blaziken Zoroark?
I love Blaziken. I love Blaziken.
Do you play
And,
Zoroark?
and, and I do, yes, because
Yeah,
Zero is a very nice card. And
that's
also
all
because
right.
Sylveon needs three energy, and at some point you kind of almost have to Blaziken to set up your Sylveon too, because
I don't
three
hate.
energies.
Blaziken. I don't think Zeraora is because you can't play Spiral Energy, Rapstrike Energy, and Radiant Eevee.
That's true.
I mean,
So
I
I
think you
could
just
do
shouldn't use Radiant
Sylveon.
Eevee. I don't think you get that much benefit. Like even if you search 6 cards, which is like good, like it's insanely good,
Right.
but like you don't like necessarily need 6 cards. You just because at that point you've already gotten all your basics in play. So you need
Yeah.
evolutions and you need some like energy, but like that's it.
Right. So if I wanted to try Sylveon, so drop the Spiral Energy. So I still keep the 4 Rapid Strike energy probably, but and that's okay. And then I have some other energies.
Yeah, I'd play. I mean, I'd play like Arceus and like Armors. Or you don't need Armors, but you definitely want Arceus. Like Arceus, Sylveon's good
Yeah, Arceus. Yeah, but no, I understand. But then,
because
of
it's
course, I don't
Arceus.
play Radiant Eevee. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't
no,
think Radiant
so I'm taking
EV's.
a deck that's good, that's decent, and making it worse.
Yeah.
So I could do in a control type deck. It gets tricky though. So it's you're not giving me a lot of hope for. So maybe I
Well, I
should
think
move on.
Control's fine. I think it's fine in Control. I have not played in Control, but I think it has serious potential. But obviously Control is hard to play, specifically with like when I was playing the Fura deck, that was hard to play,
Hmm.
because you have the weird intricacies. I mean,
Yeah,
you just have so many options. You have access to your whole deck every turn. Hopefully.
right, right. And you gotta hope your opponent isn't. You gotta keep your opponent from getting going somehow too.
Yeah, and if they Iona you, it's not a huge deal because you still get 6 cards, presumably, but getting judged
Right.
is problematic.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So maybe look at control. Okay. That's fair. All right. So the other card, this is the more interesting card. I was going through 151 the other day looking for decks to work on, and there are a number of interesting ones here. This, and you like to talk about card design, and this one really confuses me for the design, and it's so bizarre. I got to play it, and I'm working on the deck now, and that's Machamp from 151. Do you know what it does?
Oh, is it
So
one of the
it
coin
it
flip ones? Like
it,
coin
it
flip,
does
you
so it
survive.
does 3 things. Yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah, got it
first
here.
2 fighting energy, mountain chopping, 100 damage, which isn't great, but it's not horrible for a stage 2 either, right? There's a bunch of stage 2s that are kind of like that, but aren't any good, right? So hundreds, but then
I mean,
it
yeah,
also it's not good, but it's not like terrible damage, right?
and
But
yeah,
then
it's
it
not
also
unplayably bad. I
but
mean, it
then
is kind of is,
also
but like you
well,
will
100 damage, you
eventually.
can't just do that, but then also you discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck with that attack. So milling 2's not bad again, right? It's not good. You want to mill more than 2, but some only mill 1, and that's not. So 2's not a bad number. 100 damage and milling 2's a funny combination, right? It's high damage for a mill and all
But low
that. It's
damage
weird.
for like damage.
I know. At first, it's just the attack itself is weird, I think, right? Would you say?
Yes.
But it's
Okay. What we have seen attacks similar to this. I was actually looking at a GLC deck that was I don't really know what it was. It was like mill and damage or something. It had stuff like that. There's a
okay.
stack attacker, which is also mill and
Hmm.
damage, like a good chunk of damage and decent
Yeah.
mill.
So for milling 2, 100 damage isn't bad, right? It's 180 HP, so that's a good HP number for stage 2. Right?
Yeah.
We're in a rare candy world, so stage 2s aren't so terrible,
Well,
right?
we've
It's
always been a rare candy world, and stage twos were terrible. But no, they're okay now. You got like Pidgeot. You got a good stage two engine.
right. So I'm playing
Yeah.
Pidgeot with Machamp, and then as you said, it's got the coin flip, it's got the guts ability on top of this. So it's sketchy, but then guts ability. If this Pokemon will be knocked out by damage from an attack, flip a coin. If heads, the Pokemon's knocked out, not knocked out, and the remaining HP becomes 10. So you're going to survive an attack half the time. So it's it's like almost right, but it's a weird combination. Okay-ish, not quite good enough damage, decent mill, and decent survivability. So I've thrown together. It's not a naturally synergistic combination for one card, I would say.
I'd
Right?
agree with that. Yeah.
It's just right. You like card design. It's a weird card, right? I don't know why they thought this was the play for this card.
I believe so. One thing, yeah, no, I don't know why, but the Machoke and the Machop, I don't remember
Hmm.
exactly what the Machoke does. I think yeah, it's 50 for 2 and mill 1, and then the
Yes.
Machop just mills 1. Uh,
Yes.
which is actually someone commented on my video. They're like, yeah, that Machop's like broken. I'm like, yeah, it's not broken. Um, but it's all right. It's like just mill
Hmm.
1 for 1 is okay. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't really know what's going on with this card. we've seen cards like it before, and I don't know. So what are you asking me? Are you asking me about the design,
Well,
or are you asking
first, do
about
you
a
think
deck?
it's a twofold? First, design-wise, it's a very odd combination. I think Machamp, he has a lot of arms. He does different things. So I think these are pieces of different Machamps in the past to do. I don't think they've ever brought them all together, all three in one Machamp before. So design-wise, and then also what to do with it for the deck. Because it's once I see this card, I'm like, this is bizarre. I gotta play it.
Yeah, I think it's I don't think it's like I think you get like always get lucky with guts, but there are cards like there's that Jumpluff, right? That's immune on a coin flip, and there's some other ones like
Yes.
it. There's like Rapidash, right? A themed, which is good. But
Mm-hmm.
that had decent damage output for what it like needed to do, the format, all that stuff. I think I think you don't. It's not good at mill, right? It's not good at mill.
Well,
It's
if you
not.
take the fact that they're hitting to Machamp every turn and they have to knock out nine, you have to take nine knockouts essentially with flipping guts half the time. You
But
you
you're
know
also
maybe
stage two, so I'd rather play
yeah
Wug Trio.
yeah you're getting more value out of the coin flips probably.
For which one? Wug Trio or Machamp?
Well, Wug Trio because it's the coin. Is that the one you flip coins for
Yeah.
discarding?
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
you get three per head. So you're averaging what 4.5 per turn to discard.
Yeah,
This is
it's
two per
pretty
turn.
decent.
So you probably get ahead and you set up Wug Trio easier.
Yeah. So I think Machamp like isn't good for milling. And then for like an attacker, like for damage, um,
Hmm.
I'd rather play like I think not Jiggly, Jumpluff, which does it's only one energy. It does six to the active,
Yeah.
30 on the bench, and immune on a coin flip. They're different, but
Hmm.
it's one energy, which is better. And also it comes from a very powerful evolution line that one makes it easier to set up, and two makes it gives it more like versatility.
All right. Well, anyway, I gotta give this a go, and it's. I think it's really bizarre. So I'm even if the deck's not that good, I'm gonna have to make a video because it's a weird one, right? And for you to, it doesn't make a lot of sense this combination, right? You don't. I'm not missing some secret synergy for these.
No, no, I don't think so.
Okay, it's all right. So might be the weirdest card in 151. I'm not sure.
I don't think
It's
so. Maybe the 151's a weird set.
It is. So those are the two cards I wanted to talk about. So I have a Machamp deck with the Pidgeot EX being a stage two to set up. Obviously, the Pidgeot EX is a two prizer, which can be a problem. I played the deck some with Machamp. If I hit flip heads a couple times, my opponent concedes. If I don't flip heads, my opponent rolls me over. That's kind of how it goes
Yeah,
with
that
the
checks.
deck.
That makes sense.
So I'd like to get a little more consistent, right? That's what I'm working on. So I'll keep finessing the list a little.
Yeah. But I think that's it for Machamp. I don't think Machamp's that
Okay,
good.
you're not a believer. I think it's weird. So that's it. So you have some decks you want to talk about
Yeah, I
next,
realized we
correct?
didn't quite plan this out properly. Is this the only other thing we're doing?
No, I think
Uh,
so.
okay.
We could
You have a
come up
backup
with something at
idea.
the end
Yeah, I
if
know
we need
you had
to.
mentioned something before, but I don't really want to talk about it, so let's not.
Right. Well,
So yeah,
okay.
um, I have so three decks. So these are older decks. So if you don't know, Uncommon Fossil, I'm 10 types with Uncommon Fossil. I am
Yep.
Uncommon Fossil's son. Um, but despite me being younger, I know a bit more about older decks. Not that much more. I didn't.
Yeah.
We actually started playing at around the same time, but I've looked more into it and I've seen more stuff about them. Uncommon Fossil has not no idea, but uh, not a ton of ideas about older decks, specifically like early Sun and Moon era. This is actually like mid
Hmm.
Sun and Moon era, which some people consider the best era of Pokemon. Um, I don't know if it is or not, but it's pretty cool. And we've seen some of the ideas come in the GX attacks were kind of translated into V-Star powers, and
Hmm.
then the idea of GXs, they start as single prizes and evolve into multi prizes. Then we've seen that in EXs. So the ideas are coming back. But
Yeah. Yeah. So just talking about our story briefly, I'm a Poke parent in that I'm got into Pokemon because of you, right? You started
yes,
doing Pokemon in like elementary school or preschool, like everyone else was, and then you kind of fell away and got back to it, and I got started doing Pokemon because of you. I was actually giving away some of my age, but when Pokemon came out, I was already out of college and working, so I was completely oblivious to Pokemon when it started. So
Wow.
while I was around then, I could have bought base set and like put away 100 boxes of base set in my closet. I was not wise in that
You
regard
could
and
have
not
like
even
you
aware.
could have had like saved up like had us like set for life, but you decided not to.
That's right. I could have bought all those base set cards. Said, "What this is? It's a kids game." Don't and we could be living in a golden palace if I had only been wiser in those days.
Yeah.
But we both started kind of what Sun and Moon, kind of the transition
Um
from Sun. I mean, Sun and Moon with Sword and Shield, early Sword and Shield, late Sun and Moon's when we kind of started getting more into the game.
yeah. Yeah. So right when like V's and V Maxes were like beginning to come out, is when we got into games like more seriously. And like actually
Right.
playing like standard as opposed to just, playing with like your friends, just like kind of chilling. Like we're not really
Yeah.
following the rules. So,
Right. So these early Sun and Moon, that's before our time. A little
Yeah. Well,
before,
okay.
not a lot,
So,
but a little.
when we joined it was about rotation. So,
Hmm.
I don't really know these like sets very well. Which is a bit unfortunate. Like I know
Oh,
the
like the
first like
symbols and
set.
stuff.
Yeah, I don't know the symbols and when they came out, but yeah, a lot of these like were in the format very briefly. Um, or some of these were, not all of them, but so first of all, looking at the first, let's look at the Zoroark little Ninetales Decidueye list. And right off the bat, how many of these cards do you recognize? And I'm assuming you're
As
looking
a,
at the list written out, not visual, right?
I'm looking at the written list, but I'm scrolling over them. So, um, a
I mean,
little bit Zor.
Judge.
Oh, so yeah, Cynthia, because that was in Theme Decks.
Yep.
Guzma, because I played that some.
Yeah, which was in Theme Decks as
Judd,
well.
yeah, and also played in. I've done some expanded too at times, and Guzma's a given in that. So picked it up so I could play Mad Party and expanded, of course. Um, let's see, Ultra Ball, Rare Candy, Timer Ball, Theme Decks, Rescue Stretcher, Field Blower, Choice Band. Those are the ones I'm most familiar
Do you
with.
know what Choice Band does? Oh yeah, yeah, that because you play in expanded.
Yeah.
Okay, and
So
then
I,
you know
so I
double
played it.
colorless as well, and you kind of know what
Yeah,
Rainbow
play. Oh,
Energy
yeah,
does.
double colorless and Rainbow provides. What's that one do
It,
again?
it
One of
damages you,
any.
but yeah, it's one of every type.
What's it put? You put one damage counter on yourself.
Yeah, it's the original like Rainbow Energy. That's what
Aurora.
it's called. That.
So,
Yeah,
there's always been a downside to having that type. Aurora, you discard one here, you put one damage counter on you. Which
yep.
the one damage counter is not that much, although I guess Pokemon were lower HP back then too.
Yeah, it really isn't much of a big deal, and in fact, actually helped out. But same thing with the Aurora Energy, right? We were talking about that last
Yep.
podcast, and the discarding can definitely be an upside from time to time.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
One
So
card
I
you
know most, probably over half of the trainers, but go ahead.
So the one trainer you didn't, or one of the trainers you didn't mention was Countercatcher, which is actually important here. Actually, it's not that
Hmm.
important here. It's obviously in the list, but it's not the most crucial card. But it is coming back. So yeah,
Now,
it's
is it actually is it exactly counter catcher or is it something similar?
yeah,
By the
it's
way.
called Countercatcher.
Okay,
So
so
I don't know
people
if
can
there's
play their old counter catchers if they wish in their new decks
yep,
in
and that
standard.
says if
Okay.
you're down on prizes, you just gust. So first of all, what are
Okay.
your thoughts on this card?
Yeah, and I have played counter catcher a little bit in things. Okay, so the whole come from behind because I've been playing a bit more with the energy, right? Uh,
Reversal.
reversal energy, right? So
In what?
with
Just oh,
things.
within Machamp?
I was playing Zoroark actually
Okay. Yeah.
because I was doing one of the new cards, whatever in Zoroark, the new the one that evolved Aerodactyl,
Okay.
which is fun when you pull it off. You
Which,
devolve and do 100
if I remember,
damage.
if I'm correct, it's two colorless, right? Or is it
It's two
three? It's
colorless, so
two.
it can
Yeah.
be
So
a
you don't need a
DCE,
reversal.
right? But it's a
Mhm.
Zoroark box, so it's reversal and DCE, right? Um,
DTE.
or DE, I'm sorry, right? Sorry,
Yeah.
don't this old format's messing with my brain. So reversal energy, you have to be you kind of want to be behind, and it's kind of weird. And at times, like you're like, uh-oh, if I take the knockout, I'm not behind for a couple turns, and then I can't do anything. So it's a little weird, I gotta say. And I don't like that, I will say. But part of it is I need experience, but it's weird.
Oh, and did you know the being behind and like comeback is a theme of the Scott and Riley era, like intentionally?
Okay.
Because you have Iono,
Um.
you have Defiance
Yes.
Band, And you
Hmm.
have reversal, and you have I think a few others. But yeah, and counter
Yes,
catch
they
no.
they had been doing more things for that, which is good. I find that honestly, though, decks that want to be behind, I generally don't like to dive into those because I don't want to have
Because
to.
you're
I don't
too
want to
good.
have to
You're like too good.
because I don't want to have to try. There's times where I don't want to have to try to be behind, right? I find I fall behind enough on my own, but then when I play a deck that you have to be behind, all of a sudden I get ahead, and then I lose because I got ahead.
Yeah. So you're just bad,
So
is what you're saying.
it is. So look, it's a good card. It's obviously an item. So obviously an item that plays boss is crazy. So you need some limiting factor. So counter catcher, look, it's a very good card, and I obviously I imagine it's going to go in my standard decks as this
Do you think you're
for
going to put
sure.
in most of your decks? Or do you think, because
I would
obviously it's only a card, I think, so right now, obviously it's comparable to like boss, kind of, but
right
it's an item, so you could compare it to,
like
you could compare,
Pokemon Catcher, which is a
yeah,
item, but that's a coin flip.
yeah, you
So
could
this
compare it
you
to,
guaranteed.
yeah, you could compare it to Cross Switcher, and you could even compare it to Escape Rope. Obviously all very
Yes.
different cards, but
Hmm.
I think Counter Catcher is pretty good. I'm a
I would
control player. I was like so hyped when I saw it was coming back.
I would think I would think it's going to go. I anticipate playing at least a copy in most of my decks. Honestly.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's so we were actually just talking about again in our last podcast. Check that out if you haven't. It's I think a good one. Um, so but it's we talked about like the Hall of Fame cards for the Venus Sword and Shield, and we talked about
Right.
Inteleon and Drizzile, and they allow you to hit cards like say counter not actually counter cash because those weren't informed together really or at all, but theoretically you
Right.
could grab counter catcher. But now we don't have that, and now searching out cards is a bit more awkward. But you do have Pidgeot as we were talking about,
Hmm.
Arceus. So you can use that to like grab it out. But aside from that, you don't have too many ways to search it out.
Right. There's some supporters that'll get it. So I think Crimson Invasion is the set it's
Yeah,
from. I was looking at the I called up Justin Basil's thing too. I was peeking at that's a good site for symbols.
yeah. I mean, it
List them
says
out.
I clicked on the card, and I know kind of know them.
Okay. The symbol. So yeah. So anyway, so that's a good card. I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, it makes sense in decks, and I have played it in some expanded decks as well.
Yeah, and then so one very important thing during this time was before Sword and Shield. I don't know, the rules changed a few times, but you could play
Hmm.
supporters turn one. Um, so
Yeah.
for Professor Elm's lecture, I'll pull up here. I'll just tell you what it does. Search your deck for up to 3 Pokemon with 60 HP or less. Reveal them and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. This pretty much just grabs 3 basics. This isn't any basics, but this is many basics. And essentially acts like Gloria or a Clavel or whatever. Which do you know those?
Hmm.
They search for non-rule box
Um,
basics and put them onto your bench. Well, Clavel's a little different, but
I know Gloria, so
eh,
60, and they go into your hand, right? 360 HP. And they, in theory, could be an evolution, but I don't know that anything exists at that.
yeah. But then you can get them down turn one, so that's why you have Tapu Lele, which, as you know, right, that search out a
Right.
supporter.
Yes.
And that allows you to just get these down turn one and set up pretty well, going first.
Right. It's the same. It's Luminion V. Obviously, same ability, essentially different attack.
Yeah. And so do you think the supporter rule change is good or bad? Like, because obviously if you were able to play, because otherwise now you could Luminion turn one for Gloria and then get down a bunch of
Mhm.
basics.
I think right now there's too much advantage to going turn one right now, whether it's the rules of the game, combination of the rules of the game, and just the Pokemon that they've been printed that they're making, right?
Yeah.
Either the evolutions you need multiple energies. There's very few decks that can do something meaningful turn one. So I don't think we need to give more advantage to going first.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't think
kind of
that
my
would be
thought.
good.
Uh-huh. So,
Um,
but and obviously here you could. So,
yeah. So that kind of right made skewed things for sure. Made things different. So,
yeah,
which
and
is one
then
of the weird things on like live or PT's Joe playing expanded. You're playing with the new rules. You're not playing what the rules were at the time.
yeah. Well, expanded is like current for. I think it's weirder with legacy, which
That's
only has the
yes.
older cards because expanded still has the new cards. Um,
Yeah.
but then a few other things to note. I guess the supporters, there's Lily, which is draw till 6, except on your first turn, draw till you
Hmm.
have 8, which is fine.
Right. Well, that
And
was in some theme
then,
decks too, right?
yeah, Lily was in Theme decks. And
Yep.
Acerella was also
That's
in
right.
Theme decks. That's Sharon's Care for any type, which is
Yeah.
obviously very good.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Damage counters and all cards attached to it. So yes. So even better than Scoop Up Net. In a sense, it's a supporter, but you don't lose your
Uh,
energies and
but you need
such.
damage on it, so you can't scoop up a
That's
Pokemon
true.
like just say a Tapu Lele that you just played down. Um,
That's yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't do that
Okay.
with Scooper either, but
Yes. Do they have a recovery for supporters in this list, by the way?
in this list they don't. It does not. Oh, okay, they have Decidueye GX, which you'll talk about, I guess. I
Okay.
honestly don't know when this list was played, so I don't know which GX attack's the main one, or if you'd even use any. But yeah, and then so do you know what about the Pokemon? Which of these do you know?
All right. So, well, Tapu Lele. What was the Ditto again?
Unless you evolve
Okay,
into any stage
any
one.
stage one. Okay, because I know I've seen that. So,
Mhm.
and then the Nine Tails. I know I've seen that one.
The Alolan
Um,
Ninetales GX or the Alolan Vulpix?
well, certainly Alolan Vulpix, but I think
Yeah.
I've seen the Alolan Nine Tails GX as well. I haven't played it because
Yeah,
those were
that
the
was
cards
actually
back in.
on PCGO's ladder. I remember that
Okay, might have
when I
been
was
before
playing.
I was there. So before I was doing it, because those were the cards cards like that were very expensive, right? Expanded, particularly PTCGO
Yeah,
was tough to get into.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
Well,
But then,
and to get that base of trainer cards actually was part of the problem, right? You had to make a big investment to get your
well,
versus
there was
seekers
like
and all that
that,
stuff.
and then you also had the ace packs. You had some like very expensive cards.
Yeah, right. I never got a computer search because it was just too much.
But then, then okay, so we actually, and these are in the world's decks that we've actually bought. I think and some of
Okay.
them are, not all of them. And then, so I'll just tell you about them. But what's
Yeah, go
really
ahead.
interesting in this deck is that pretty much every engine piece is also like an attacker, which is very rare in standard right now. I can't think of any engine attackers. Um,
Well, yeah, you have Arceus.
there's yeah, there's Arceus, and then there's the Gardevoir line, I guess, but it's kind of weird.
Right, you're not
Like Baby
attacking with
Gardevoir.
the Curlias.
Yeah,
So,
the Baby Gardevoir is like the main one, which is a very good
yes.
attacker and a very good ability. But
Hmm.
yeah. But yeah, so obviously Tapu Lele GX, but that's attack does 20 times the amount of energy attached to each of your opponent's active Pokemon, or attached to both active Pokemon. It does not
Right.
hit weakness, which is kind of important in its in the idea. There was something, do you know the oh, there's something called the Mewtwo Wars or something, that was like
Okay.
Mewtwo
Yeah.
EX, which was like this attack, except they were both weak to it, except it was weak to itself. So just go back and
Okay.
forth like one shot each other with Mewtwo's.
Hmm.
But that's not the case anymore with Tapu Lele because it doesn't have weakness and doesn't hit weakness, but it's still a decent attack in addition to an insane ability, which is pretty interesting because Luminion's attack is not good. It's essentially it's bad.
Yeah, right. Even decks that can attack with it generally don't. Occasionally, just partly to get it out of play, but yeah, it's not a good attack.
And then we also see so Ditto is a Ditto Prism Star, as we said, which you can play multiple
Yeah.
Prism Stars in a deck, unlike Radiance, but you can only play one of each, and it allows you to
Yeah.
evolve into any stage one, which includes Zoroark GX, Zoroark GX, Alolan Ninetales GX, and Magcargo. Magcargo, do you remember this one? It was in theme decks.
No, I have to look at it now.
Here, I'll let
So
you pull it up.
50 damage, but then so ability smooth over once during a turn. You may search your deck for a card, shuffle your deck, put that on top of it. So yeah, I just need Rotom phone. No, that doesn't get
No,
so you need
that's
the
the
Rangaroo.
Rangaroo. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's very nice. You set up the top deck exactly how you want it. So yeah, very,
And then
very nice ability.
obviously you ideally draw into it with Zoroark
Yes.
GX. Zoroark GX has its ability trade, which when people say this is one of those abilities that kind of like takes over people's like it's discard one draw two, and it's the most notable one I think. Um,
Okay.
and it's not the first one, but
but it
Uh,
was such a big one, right? And it's a
yeah,
very simple name too for it. So
yeah. We've actually seen trade again in Liepard. Liepard has trade.
okay.
The name. But
That's
then
the yeah.
Ride is beating here. It does 20 for each Pokemon you have in play, which means it can hit up to 120
Whoa.
for a double colorless.
Yeah.
So yeah, and this was broken. This was broken, and this is only like a year or two before we started playing. Um, so yeah, obviously this doesn't hit as much. Like
Yeah.
if this was in format today, it would be
You wouldn't play it.
okay. I mean,
I don't
it's
know if
not
you.
like the worst. It's not great. Its GX attack also is usable, not in this deck though, and not when it was. Unless you'd like copy one of your opponent's Pokemon's attack, so which could be nice. But not really when it was in format. But yeah,
Mhm.
it was just nice. Obviously, its abilities is good. We were talking about
Yes.
Cinccino and we were talking about the Curly and stuff like that,
Right.
which are good.
Which were good. And obviously if doing 120 damage was good, then the 210 HP on this makes it nice and tanky. So you have an engine piece that's not getting one shot.
Yeah, and then we got two more attackers. And how about you read these as well? So Alolan Ninetales GX. I think I'll remind you of a certain Pokemon or two, its ability at least.
All right, so it's a stage 1 GX, 200 HP,
And it's
fairy type.
fairy as well. Yep, fairy.
So
One of the
okay, so
last
weak.
good fairy Pokemon.
All right, so mysterious guidance. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may search your deck for the 2 item cards. Sounds familiar. So it is the Inteleon that search for 2 items. Oh,
Well,
but
no,
that was
it's
that was
items.
support any support any
Trainer.
trainers. So
Yeah,
this is not as good as that.
yeah. It is a stage one though,
Um,
and gets two, so it's pretty. It's
right.
not
It's a
far off.
multi-price Pokemon though. You'd rather, yeah. I mean, stage one's easier. Obviously, I think you'd rather have the Drizzile and the Inteleon than this if you had a choice, probably.
Yeah, maybe. They're
I
certainly
mean,
different. But then it also has some attacks.
yeah. So
So,
but 2 items very good. So Snowy Wind for 270, and this attack does 30 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So obviously, I guess we can scream power creep at this point because 70 to the action and 30 to the bench today for 2 energy out of 2 prize would be garbage, correct?
it would. Yeah, it's certainly. Yeah, on a stage one multi-price.
Probably, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think
Um,
what are some other stage one 200 attacks. Well, stage one or two prize attacks. Stage one two prizes aren't very good right now, but
yeah, I mean
oh
that's
well, like
true.
there's like Arceus, that's pretty good. 200 damage, accelerate 3 energy. Obviously, usually a double turbo, so it is 2 energies.
Well, I
And
mean, you have like the stage 1 EXs that evolve from single prize like this, right? So you
yeah,
have
but
like
they're mostly
Oinkologne,
bad.
you got
Yeah,
like Bayonet. They're not setting the world on fire. You have Arcanine EX. That one does set the world on fire, but that's a bad
yeah,
joke there.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but look, but the damage level is not good on Snowy Wind. I'm just saying. Even back then, but of course you have Professor's Elm that's put in these 60 HP basics. So if your opponent's putting 60 HP basics, you're one-shotting the basic if in the active, and you're getting the bench one halfway there,
Yeah,
I guess. So, and then the GX attack for 2 energy again, Sublimation GX if your opponent's active Pokemon is an Ultra Beast. Okay, so there was that package back then. It is knocked out. So you just one-shot an Ultra Beast. So,
yeah, and I don't know how useful this was. I think it was moderately useful. There's Blacephalon GX. There were some single prize Ultra
mhm,
Beasts as well, but obviously that's not so amazing to one shot it with using your GX attack.
right.
But yeah, and then Decidueye GX. I think it'll also remind you of a Pokemon.
All right, Decidueye GX, Feather Arrow ability. Once during your turn, you may put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Okay,
Does that remind you
so
of a
that
certain Pokemon?
that sounds like Inteleon again also. So
Yeah.
they just reprinted Inteleon with these cards. Okay. Um so that's good. So this is a 240 HP, so a little tankier there. Razor Leaf does 90 for 3.
And in this
Wow.
particular deck, it wasn't used, but in certain decks, it was.
Okay.
Definitely it was used.
So for grass, colorless. And obviously you could pay the attack. You had the one rainbow energy in the list. So a rainbow and a DCE, and you could attack with it. And let's see, Hollow Hunt GX, put 3 cards from your discard pile into your hand. So, okay, so that's even better. Discard pile into your hand. That's a very nice ability. That's a very
Let's
nice. It's an
attack.
attack. So I'm sorry if it was an ability, it'd be crazy, but that's a good attack. You're setting up your next turn, so hopefully you're in position. But again, it has like the counter catcher looking to be behind, so maybe that plays into it as well. So I do, that is a good Hollow Hunt GX is useful.
Yeah, and that's about it. Like that's the deck. But there's a bunch of things. So you obviously see Zoroark, a little Ninetales, Decidueye, and Tapu Lele all having good abilities and a pretty good
Hmm.
attacks. Um,
Yeah.
which I think that's not really something we see too often now. And then obviously a lot of similarities to Inteleon. I'd say the Italian engine is better. It's all one line, and it does
Yeah.
like the same stuff, but kind of better and more efficiently. Um, but I don't know. What do you think about this? Like, what do you think about this style of deck and card design as well?
I mean, it's very appealing. I think, right? You have good abilities, but they're on two prizers, so that's part of the price you're paying, and the attacks aren't crazy over the top attacks either, right? I assume there are bigger attackers in the game at this point in time too. I'm assuming.
Yeah, there were some powerful, like decent one-shotting ones, but not like great. This was a regional winning deck that I pulled
Hmm.
up. Oh, wait, never mind, it wasn't. But it was a
No,
third
came in
place
third.
list. It was like this type of deck was certainly one of the best decks in the game. This like archetype. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
don't know, like
it's
it's
an
just
appealing
different.
list as I look through it. Yeah, no, it seems like decks like that being good seems like an enjoyable time for the game. I would say.
Yeah, and then also we were talking about earlier, Ultra Ball, how discarding two is awkward. You still have that, and then you have Zoroark, where you're
Yeah.
discarding like a few cards every turn. So you have a lot
Right.
of interesting decision making. Where you can get punished for it, but you can also use Decidueye GX as kind of a little bit of a bailout to recover. And then you can play
Yeah.
multiple, like five different people could play the deck and all play it very differently from one another.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, yeah. Decks that allow expression are a good thing. So it's yeah. No, I think it's a nice deck. You have a balance of types in it and such. You have the Rainbow Energy allows you to power up some of these attacks. If your Rainbow Energy is prized, I guess you might be in trouble.
Well, it
If I'm
mostly
looking,
allows you to power up Decidueye GX's attack, because you have
Zoroark, you can
fairies.
attack. Right. Well, Ninetales, you can't attack without it.
No, you have
You
fairy
might not.
energy.
Oh, that's right. I apologize.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. Sorry.
So
So
it's a
yeah.
Ninetales Zoroark attacking deck. Oh, and then look at counter gain as well. That I think is an interesting
Oh
card.
yeah, yeah. I was looking at that too. Right. It's a tool card. So if you have more prizes remaining, attack cost of this Pokemon is one less. So I was playing some Jolteon VMAX recently. Obviously, that's got the tool, whatever it's called, that reduces your attack cost by one. The same thing, but that's just to specific Pokemon. This is for anything but one less prize if you're behind in prizes. So that's a nice card too.
Yeah, and then
Um,
you can search it out as well. It's all Ninetales says search items, but then tools for items at this point, so you could grab that, which is kind of cool.
mhm. Yeah, so I wonder if they'll come back with counter gain, right? If they're
Yeah, I feel
doing
like that one's
comeback
kind of good.
mechanics.
I feel like it's a little too good.
You think it's overpowered?
Yeah, I think like
With everything else, it's too good.
yeah, I mean I think it's just so good. It's somewhat comparable to Raihan, right? Because it's if you're like
Hmm.
losing in a sense, you can attack get an extra energy, but it's
Right.
not a supporter. So
Right. Except you haven't used your supporter for turns, so it's better than that, really, in that sense.
yeah,
You don't search for the card, but you have your supporter to use. So you think it might be too good for them to reprint the way
yeah.
it is now?
I think it, but I don't know. I think it's not
Okay.
like super crazy. Then I think it's time to move on to the next list.
Yep.
And this
So are we
has
doing the Buzzwole, by the way?
yep,
Buzzwole Lycanroc,
Buzzwole,
or
Lycanroc, with
okay?
and so do you have Slugma, which
Yeah.
with
Is there something you'd like to say about that?
the Slugma balls.
Okay.
Yeah, this because it plays Slugma and plays Ultra Ball and Nest Ball. Yeah, no, there's a deck called Grand Ball, which I've affectionately call Slugma balls. So
Okay.
Yeah, but the Slugma into Magcargo, we saw Magcargo on the other list. I think it's actually on all these lists. It wasn't like a super broken card, but it was a good one, and it saw a bunch of play. And it's like a fun card. It's kind of like Pidgeot, it's kind of like Inteleon, but obviously it puts it on top. And in this deck, you don't have as much access to the top of your deck, but we see Lily. Oh, we see a Rangu as well. So do you know this Rangu, right? But you don't know it super well.
Oh, yeah, so Orangaroo with the instructability, you may draw until you have three cards in hand. So it's the same thing as the new Mew EX, right?
Yep.
You draw until you have three in hand. Obviously, you have to get down to a small hand size, so that's why something like Ultra Ball, thinning your hand first, then use Magcargo to get the card you want on top of the deck, and then draw it in with a Rangaroo.
Yeah. But then we see two different Buzzwalls. You see the Buzzwole GX and the what's called Baby Buzzwole. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah,
And
Buzzwole
they're both
GX.
Ultra Beasts.
Yeah. So and the deck does. Oh yeah, and then you have Beast Ring and Beast Energy. Beast Ring is kind of like Mirage Gate. Actually, yeah. Look at Beast Ring. And
Okay,
Beast
let
Energy,
me.
because you've had some experience with Ultra Beast. So you played Baby Blacephalon, but
I
that really
did.
didn't have any Ultra Beast stuff. The first attack, do you remember what that did?
I don't remember right
It
now.
lets you like flip a prize card over.
Oh yeah, and if it was an energy, it did more damage, right?
Yeah, which is probably so. It was just like weird, right? It was something that just was very
Yeah,
strange.
yes, it was. Yeah, you didn't really usually want to use that
But
attack.
in fact, the prize card mechanic is the whole Ultra Beast mechanic, which is was very minimally reflected with that Blacephalon.
Okay.
And even the Blacephalon GX, which ended up seeing play, uh, it was not reflected super well in that. It just had an attack that lets you
Hmm.
essentially take a prize card, which is good. But yeah, so Beast Energy, I'll read out Beast Energy here. Actually, it's colorless, but obviously you want to attach to an Ultra Beast, and then it provides um, every energy, like it's a Rainbow or Aurora or whatever,
Hmm.
and then you do 30 more. So that's very good, but it's a Prism Star.
Yeah.
So it's an obvious inclusion in an Ultra Beast deck. It's not actually
And a
that
prism
interesting.
and a
Okay,
prism
go.
star means besides only having one copy max in the deck, when it's discarded from play, it goes in the lost zone, correct?
Yes, that is true. And then you have B string. B string, it's an item. Says you can play it only if your opponent has exactly 3 or 4 prize cards remaining, which is as you can generally only take 2 prizes at most every turn. In every game, you
Right.
should have access to this. But if your opponent plays spread, which as you saw in that other deck, you had some spread,
Mm.
not a ton, but some. If you're
Yeah.
able to take 3 prizes in one turn, or maybe 4, depending how the prizes are laid out, then you can skip this turn for them, which you might want to try to do because it lets you search check for up to 2 basic energy cards and attach them to one of your Ultra Beasts, which is very similar to Mirage Gate. Can be the same type, but
Hmm.
has to be to one Pokemon, and it has to be to an Ultra Beast, but obviously similar idea there.
Yeah, I mean, so the beast ring kind of, in a sense, like the battle styles, in a sense, it's a package, right? You have energy, you have Pokemon, you have trainers that are designed to work together.
Yeah, Ultra Beasts are the equivalent of Battle Styles, which are also the equivalent of the new Paradox Pokemon.
Yeah. So a good card kind of reminds me playing the Zoroark lately with the Slowbro that you win that you if you take two prize, your opponent's down to one last prize, playing against up against a Dialga V-Star deck, and they're saving their V-Star attack to go from two prizes to no prizes. To avoid my winning with my Slowbro. With my right. A similar thing
Yeah.
here. You might want to try to skip over those that 4 3 and 4 prize situation if you could.
Yeah. So, and then there's two other Buzzwalls as well. So the baby
Okay.
Buzzwole is considered very. I mean, it's played as a 4 of here. But so you read that one,
Yep.
or both of them out actually.
Yeah, so Buzzwall, a basic Ultra Beast, 130 HP, which probably was a solid number, I would assume.
I mean, even
Uh,
now it's still good.
it is, yes. Yeah, a power. Yeah, somehow power creep in the single prize. It's kind of weird the way that's worked. So sledgehammer for one fighting, 30 damage plus. If your opponent has exactly 4 cards remaining, this does 90 more. So if it's down to 4 prizes exactly, you're doing 120 for one energy on a single prize. Quite nice there. And then and very good back then. You're not knocking out another Buzzwell though.
Yeah, but
Then
you are KOing Zoroark GX, which is weak to fighting, which is a pretty big deal for this deck.
which was there was a lot of that in format, I assume.
Yeah.
And then swinging around for 3 energy, fighting colors, 80 damage. You flip 2 coins. It does 20 more for each head, so averaging 100 for 3 energy. Um, I mean, it's good. 3 energy is obviously a lot. It's a lot of work to make that happen, I would say.
Yeah, and as you noticed in the list, I mean, hopefully you did, there's four of this Buzzwole. And most of the
Yes.
game, you're not going to be at four prizes. So you'll be working with this Pokemon that does 30 for one or like 100 for three. Um,
Yeah.
which sometimes, well, obviously, and also you don't have much acceleration. You have the Beast Ring, and before then, you're gonna be swinging for 30 for one. Some you do have Diancie Prism Star, which is very important though, boosting or
Okay.
boosting fighting Pokemon by 20. So that's if you're only doing from 30 to 50, that's a pretty big deal.
Hmm. It is. So that's its ability. You're not necessarily attacking with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, Princess's Cheer does your as long as on the bench, your fighting Pokemon do 20 more. Okay. And then the Buzzwole GX, take a look at that. Another basic. So basic 190 HP, Ultra Beast, 2 copies, plus the GX attack. Let's see. One fighting Jet Punch does 30, and this attack does 30 to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So another 30 to the bench smack. And then does the Diancie boost that too, or is that only to the
It's only
active?
to the active, I believe.
Okay, I wasn't that yeah, which is how things are now. I wasn't sure if it was different back then. So it's hitting to the bench as much as the active, and then Knuckle Impact for 3 does 160, but it can't attack the next turn. So you want to get out of there if you can. I'm not sure how much switching there is there, but 160 is obviously a big damage for that time. And then Absorption GX for 3 energy. Uh, this attack does 40 damage for each of your remaining prize cards. So each of your remaining prize cards. So
So it gets weaker as the game goes on.
right. So you want to use this one early. It's not a comeback one. It's a reverse. It's a big punch
Oh,
early.
and Absorption GX is sometimes called Subsmorption or
Oops.
Subsmorption. I don't know. It's sometimes
Okay.
called that.
All right. Well, I'm not going to do that now, but okay. So that's so you want to get that off early, but of course it's 3 energy, and getting 3 energy, yeah, all you have is Beast Ring to accelerate, right? And you can only use that after your opponent is down to 3 or 4 prizes.
Yeah. So you could use it as like a comeback style card. And obviously it
Right.
can like take big one shots. And then also there's Lycanroc GX. So can you read that one out? I think this one will also remind you of a card.
Okay, which is
And
stage
hopefully
one.
this time it doesn't remind you of Inteleon again.
Oh, I hope not. Otherwise, they really ran out of ideas. But all right, so Lycanroc GX, 200 HP, stage one, fighting Pokemon, bloodthirsty eyes. They knew how to name things back then, I guess too. They've gotten more timid. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon. Does my opponent do the choosing,
No, no,
or
you
do I?
choose.
I choose. Oh, it's an on play, so it's the VMAX, right? Was Umbreon VMAX? Is that the one?
Yep.
That's the on play one, right? Then you had like the V Star and the Leafeon V Star, but that you got to choose when you did it. But
Yeah.
similar-ish. But yeah, so that's obviously a free Guzma. Not I won't say free boss, but
Yeah.
Guzma without
Well,
using
it's
your
not
supporter.
Guzma because you don't switch, so it is a
Oh,
free
you don't
boss.
switch either. Oh, that's true. And so they didn't have that supporter that did that at this
No,
time.
I mean Guzma is probably better, but it's not always better. So
Right. You just have if you're switching between standard and expanded, you just got to think through that distinction. Otherwise, you don't want to advance your attacker in
yeah.
the active.
Oh, and then one
Um,
interesting thing is that it's very hard to trap someone's Pokemon in the active because all their boss are also now switch.
yes. So right, everybody has more switching cards automatically because you all play. Yeah, your bosses are switches too. And then so Claw Slash for 3, another 3 attack cost, does 110, a solid number, but again, it's 3 energy. And then Dangerous Rogue GX for 2 energy, does 50 damage for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Oh, well, that's good actually. That
Yeah, and it kind of is better later as well, unlike the other one.
right, and it's less to pay, so you can get it off earlier.
Yeah, but it is
So
an evolution.
That's true. So, and obviously the GX attack, you can only use one per game. So you have that's a nice little pair of options there
Yeah, and that's why I
with those
like that
attackers.
now you have like different options for GX attacks, which in right now like every deck just has one V-star power. I think I can't think of any deck that uses multiple.
Multiple.
Some play Sky Sailstone and Forest Sailstone occasionally, but not
Well, you
usually.
play like Arceus Gudra, right?
Oh yeah,
Then
but you always like you pretty much
you
always
want
use
to
like
save the
Arceus, and
Gudra
you
if you
want to
can,
use Gudra. Um,
but you have to use the Arceus usually.
yeah, and it's not like and also like their abilities, so they're better, but then they're also more like straightforward. Like you're not like there are times when you don't want to use either attack, any GX attack, because any GX attack would be worse than even a regular attack. And so
Yep.
that's why like even though GX attacks are weaker and don't allow for as many like combos, they are
Mhm.
arguably more interesting.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, so
Um,
Lycanroc. So anything else in the deck we need? So we covered
oh
all the
no, no.
Pokemon.
So I just find this is a little sidetrack, but you mentioned
Okay.
that you thought the naming has gone down. Can you look at Houndstone from Obsidian Flames? I don't know if you
All
played
right.
with this card, but I think it just
So
has an interesting name.
hang on, I got a call. Houndstone from Obsidian Flames.
Yeah.
Okay. The not the EX or you mean the
No,
EX?
not the EX, not the EX.
The second attack here,
Second attack, yep.
two for ferocious. So
Yes. It's like ferocious, but it's spelled the number
right,
4.
right, and it's because it's exactly two or four prize cards remaining.
Yeah, so I
All right,
don't
I
know
hadn't
how
I
you.
hadn't noticed that. I haven't seen that card before, so that's I don't know if that's getting better. I gotta say that's that's I don't
It's
leaning
it's
into
just
the
really
wordplay a
bad.
little hard. It is, yes.
Okay.
So
Oh, and then there's another one that I remember seeing, which is a GX, which is Mimikyu. Um, I think it's GX. Which is yeah, it's Mimikyu GX. It's It's second regular attack. Just a
Mimikyu
fairy
GX,
Pokemon.
GX.
Yeah. Which is it's I don't think it was a good Pokemon, but maybe
From
it was. I don't think
from
so.
Lost Thunder, I guess.
Yep.
Oh, let's snuggle and fall.
So they weren't always great at attack names back then either.
No, the things are scarier looking too. I gotta say, like the Lycanroc GX, like it's got these red like devil eyes, lasers coming out. The Rockruff, the top one, he's very scared looking. That there's a little more emotion and potentially a little more disturbing to little kids. I gotta say,
Yeah, I guess.
but
I
anyway,
don't know. And
okay.
then yeah, that's
And,
about
and
it.
like I just like Acrobike, obviously a terrific card too. Top two cards, one in hand, one in discard, one probably better than Trekking Shoes, I would think.
Yeah, because you see both the cards.
Yes. Oh, what's multi switch do? Sorry, I'm
That's
looking
just
through.
like it's like energy switch,
Move
but it can move a special energy, but it's from
or
your
a base.
bench to your active.
Okay, so it's one directional only. Okay. All
Yeah,
right, just
I
getting a
think energy
sense.
switch was not in the format. Maybe it was. I don't know. It's slightly different. And then well, there's also Professor Kui, which you know, but it's draw 2 and do 20 more, which is I think an interesting card. Um, that's
Well, that's
situationally
a good
useful.
well that's actually a pretty good card, right? Because we were talking before about Leon,
Leon,
right?
yeah.
That
Leon
does
was pretty
30
like not
more.
good. It wasn't.
It wasn't played a lot, but it had value sometimes,
Yeah,
right?
you played an
Probably,
Ice Rider, right?
yeah, because you had 250, it got you the 280 before Choice Belt too, right?
Yeah,
So
and
that
then
came out
even
a
the
little bit
310,
later.
which could be good against like Mew.
Right. So, but 20 and two cards, I mean, I think that's a pretty balanced card, is what I'd say, right? It's
Yeah, I think it's
playable, but it's
balanced.
not overpowered. And honestly, I think that's where I like to see cards be.
Yeah.
It's a consideration.
I mean, if all the cards were perfectly balanced, that's kind of where they all be.
Yes.
Well,
But
actually, if there's like
right.
1,000 cards that are all balanced, they'd all be like bad, but you get the idea.
Yeah. I mean, I think some of the cards do get too overpowered, right? I think. And people always like the overpowered cards as being the best cards when they evaluate a new set, right? To
I mean,
me,
it's usually true, Well, as
But
the best design
but I
cards
like
or the
a balance.
cost.
Well, I don't think they distinguish between them, right? Between best design versus strongest card.
I feel like people don't like to talk about design very much. Um,
That's true. They think about
yeah,
it from the player's perspective, which makes sense.
yeah. I don't want to play like a card that I'm just gonna like lose. So,
That's true. Well, and if you're competitive, you want to go and you want to win all the time. If you're playing online more casually, you want to play a variety of decks, and you'd like to be competitive. A lot of different decks, and I'll be competitive, right? In a lot of
yeah,
different
I think in
situations.
this, looking between these two decks, so they're very different decks, and
Hmm.
interestingly, none of them seem like Lycanroc obviously is played here with Buzzwole, but it could have been
Yeah.
played with Zoroark, and it could have been played with those other things. You could mix and match and like really make your own deck during this time.
Yeah, and I'm looking. There's a decent mix of cards spread out and stuff. So you know, I do. Yeah, no, it's good. I like the deck. Again, seems interesting.
Yeah, and then there's this last deck here, which is it's interesting. It's kind of
Okay.
chaotic. Um, I don't know. It's a weird deck. So first of all,
So
Tapu Koko.
Passimium Taku Koko is what it's named here.
Yeah. And so read Tapu Koko. Tapu Koko is arguably the best pivot ever, and it's also a promo exclusive, which is a bit unfortunate. But yes, it's often considered the best pivot ever. I think. I don't know about older ones, but certainly in like recent history.
All right, so it 110, so 110 HP, which we've seen that lightning free retreat. Flying flip, the two colorless energies, and of course you have the four double colorless energies to pay the
Make
cost.
sure you do
The
not attach double turbo.
right, because the attack does 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. If you had a double colorless, you do, I mean, DTE, sorry, you do 0 damage across the board.
Yep.
So 20 per. Yeah, I mean, that's very good. Of course, you have to have DCE to make it good, though, otherwise, right? If DCE wasn't format, you're not attaching two single energies, right? Or Raihaning an energy if that was in format or whatever, right?
You could.
Maybe.
It's not like as good, but it's okay, I suppose. But yeah, and then you can use Electric Ball as well. This list plays double colorless and then counter energy. Counter energy is very similar to Reversal. You need to be down. It provides any type,
Mhm.
except it's only two. It can go on basics though, which is I'd say Counter's probably a better card, but own
But this
only
can
to
go on,
non-rule box. Essentially, it's actually non-GX or EX, so it could actually go on Vs and the new EXs. But
right?
during this time, it's essentially Reversal.
Right. I'm glad they changed to the rule box terminology. I wish they'd be consistent about that going forward.
Yeah,
I
even
still think
still,
they kind of flip back and forth between rule box and calling things out.
mhm. I think generally they
Um,
play it in a way that makes the card worse. So if it actually maybe that's not true. I don't know. Yeah, so if it helps a card, it'll say it helps non-rule box, but then if it like hurts a card, like say Mimikyu, they'll
mhm.
say it turns off or it's immune to GXs and or sorry, EXs and Vs as opposed to all rule box Pokemon.
Yeah. I guess they think that's better for going into expanded format, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know how big of a. I mean,
And maybe
obviously,
they're
like if
correct. I
Mimikyu
don't
was,
know.
yeah, I mean, it would be very good if it was immune to all rule box, but I don't know if it would be broken. In some sense, it does exactly what it's meant to do.
Right. So if you wanted a deck to be immune to all different rule boxes and expanded, you'd need multiple Pokemon to cover that range,
Yeah, and then
I
if they're
suppose.
playing the different varieties of them, you're never going to be completely immune.
Right. And maybe that's better. So Tapu Koko does 20. You also have, I know, Shrine of Punishment, 4 copies of that. Stadium, that between turns, you put 1 damage counter on each GX and EX Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's. So therefore, that adds to the Tapu Koko damage building up. And so this deck does not play any GX Pokemon, unlike the other lists.
Yep. And this seems really interesting because it like does damage, which is kind of funny, but it's very good, and very like disruptive. Well, I don't know about
Right.
disruptive, but like it very heavily discourages your opponent from playing down those
Playing
Pokemon.
them. Although the
Uh,
GX's HPs were pretty high, so it was going to take a lot of turns before you're knocking them out. So we'll have to
Well,
see what else
yeah,
you
but
have.
you're hitting with Tapu Koko. Oh, if you're hitting Tapu Koko every turn and trying to punishment,
R-
you're doing 40 to all of them every turn. So
Right, it's between each turn. So yes,
yeah,
so yeah. I mean, I see this right. The synergy is there
Like
between the
after like
stadium
5
and Tapu.
turns, you'll have like lost, which is a bunch, but that's the
You'll
amount
win
of
after
time it
5
takes.
turns if you don't get, as long as you can attack with Tapu Koko every turn.
Yeah, but you'll be
But you
KOing
have
some
4
stuff as
counter
well.
energies
Like if
and
there's
4
single prizes.
DCEs.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
but obviously that's not all. Also look at Latios, which I'll just tell you it does.
Okay.
30 to the active and 30 to 20 they're benched. If they have a very small bench, if you want to target something down a little more, you can use Latios, but obviously generally it does less overall damage.
Right. I mean, it does more to the active, obviously, at 30 instead of 20. But yeah, usually you probably, and only 1 copy of this versus 4 copies of Tapu Koko,
Yeah.
which
Uh,
makes sense.
and then we got Slugma, Magcargos, we got Slugma balls again. And then you also have Passimian as well. Passimian's interesting. You have the 2 of them. So you want to
And
read
2
those out.
copies of each. So this one has Fling, which was in a theme deck, right? This attack does 30 damage to
No,
one of your
not
opponent's.
this Passimian. No.
Oh,
Oh,
not this
maybe it
one.
was. This was in one, but I don't think it was in
No,
like a
maybe
good one.
not. Not what I'm thinking of. Yeah. No, so now I realize it's not. Does 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, so it hits the bench for 30. Which is useful, obviously, with this way this deck works. And then team play for 2 colorless. Attack does 10 plus 30 more damage for each of your bench Passimian, and you have a total of 4. So
Well,
potentially it
yeah,
can in total. So you could have 3 on the bench.
yeah.
So you could do 100 damage potentially with it. Although you
Yep.
probably aren't. I don't know that you're filling up the bench with
Yeah,
Passimians.
I mean you want to, but you can
Okay.
obviously you have some other Pokemon too, and then you have this other Passimian.
Right. So this ability, let's see, it's 110 HP. Yeah, they're both 110 HP. Power Huddle ability, as long as this Pokemon is on your bench, your Passimian's attack do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. And I assume this stacks then, is that correct?
Yep.
So that's
So
very good. I mean, these days, if they printed it, they probably make it so it doesn't stack, I would suspect.
maybe I mean it's only to evolutions as well, so um, but that
To
means if you have
evolutions,
yeah if you have 3 of this Passimian and then the other one the active, you're doing
if you have all 3 of this
60. You're
Passimians.
doing yeah you're doing 190. To an active evolution, which is as always, I think I told you this before the start. Some people would play 3 of this Passimian and 1 of the other Passimian, but I'm sure you could see how that could go wrong.
Right. I mean, this attack also does 40 for 2, so you could attack with it for the same energy cost, but you're doing a
Well,
lot
it's
less damage.
well not for a double colorless. You can do it for a counter.
Right. Right. No, yeah, no, yeah, correct. So yeah, so Flint, yeah, so that, and then the Passimian. Okay, so the ability does not help the fling attack because it doesn't boost to the bench. Just trying to see how it works. Okay.
Yeah. And then you
All
also
right.
have Shaman here, which I'll just read out. It's a rally back. You've actually seen this attack before. If any of your Pokemon are knocked out, but damage from opponent's attack last turn, you do
30
120.
plus 90 more. Yeah.
Yes, you do 120 for grass colorless for a counter.
Hmm.
And then that's like solid. We've seen attacks identical to this, and we've seen them actually seen play. We saw Kangaskhan, and I don't know, we've seen stuff like this.
And
And
I
then
noticed the Shaman is 70 HP. The one was smacking around a lot of 60 damage, right? That was knocking out those 60 basics, whereas none of the everything's at least 70 HP in this one. So
wait, what do you
you don't
mean?
get. It wasn't the one doing 60 damage to some things on the bench, or no?
No, I was doing 30,
Or doing 30.
but then
Okay,
the
so
one did
but with
70 to the active and 30 to the bench, and there were different things.
but at 30 the bench it takes 3 shots to get this out, which
Yeah.
could matter too. Okay, go ahead.
And then we see the big one here, Tapu Lele, which I think you should read out because it's impressive. I've actually played this one in live expanded. It's very fun. It is the one that I think in Pizza Joe and maybe in live, you'll time out using its attack.
Okay, so Tapu Lele 110 HP basic. Let's see. Is it the first one? So you see a Psywave, 1 colorless energy, 1 psychic, does 20 damage times the amount of energy attached to both to your opponent's active Pokemon. Okay, I don't think I'm timing out with that one. So magical swap, yeah, for 2 psychic colorless, move any number of damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon to their other Pokemon in any way you like. Okay, so just move, and you have to move it one by one, correct? The last it was.
Yep.
So like when you place the damage with Sableye, it gives you like a 40 and a 30 and a 20, right? So you can drag 40 if you want. And you don't have to do 10 at a time. You can do the 10s, but you have the bigger counters to use as well.
Yeah, I believe you have to do one at a time, but I'm not sure about that.
Maybe they've adjusted that. So if you had to move, yeah, I mean, live needs to get better. So move damage counters however you want. So that's nice.
Yeah, and obviously need to be thinking of the math the whole time because most likely your opponent's Pokemon aren't going to have the same amount of damage counters on all of them. Some have probably get knocked out, but then some have been played since you started spraying damage, and some are GX and some aren't. You're
Hmm.
going with Passimian and Latios, so you're not just hitting 20 to everything every turn. And then you have Choice Band to do some more. Then you have Professor Kukui. And so you got a lot of
Right.
like moving pieces here. And then Tapu Lele as like the big finisher a lot of the time, but not all the time. And it's just it's kind of a weird deck to play.
So a lot of times you're setting things up and then finishing things off with Tapu Lele, I guess.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
wiping out their whole board
Yeah,
potentially.
ideally, you can take like 6 prize turns.
You can't wipe out the whole board because there can't be
Yeah,
enough damage counters to knock out every Pokemon on board already. So
no, but you could take 6 prizes theoretically.
right, right. They have multi-prize Pokemon. So I get a headache now at times playing Radiant Alakazam with doing the calculations in
Moving two
this.
damage counters.
Exactly, but it's a lot of work. It depends what else you're playing in the deck, right? Because you're always doing it with some other attacker or some damage spread, right?
Yeah,
Trying to figure out what you're doing, right? So I'm just saying, at times it gets a little,
yeah, I
and you have to
agree.
do all that thinking every turn, right? So this is going to be even more so, probably, right?
Yeah, so like Tapu Lele is a card that like I kind of want back. And interestingly, there was both a fairy and a psychic version that had the same attacks. Which was actually a thing that they did a few times. They had like Pokemon that
Hmm.
if you because in the video game they can be dual type, um, and so they brought them into the TCG as both types, which is kind of cool, I guess. It was kind of weird, but it was kind of cool. And then so Tapu Lele had both. And this one was a promo exclusive, and the other one wasn't. I think. Uh,
Okay.
but yeah, so it's kind of a card I want back, but obviously, like, it takes a long time. And it's like confusing, and like even in person, I think it would probably take a while. Um, or at least it takes a while
Yeah,
for me to think of it.
I'm a little scared that it could be overpowered too. I think there needs to be
Maybe.
something to counter it if it came in, like Big Parasol, which I don't think would stop this necessarily, or
Big
would it?
Parasol
Does
would,
it?
yeah.
You need
Big Parasol prevents effects of attacks, so
so,
that would. But there's the one that stops Sableye, which will not. I don't believe
okay.
because
So
Jirachi. Uh, yeah, it says prevent any damage cards being placed. I don't really know. These damage cards are being
mhm,
moved, so I'm not sure. I don't think that's placing
what
them,
it
but
does. Yeah, it probably is different, right? Damage versus damage counters and placing versus moving. It all gets a little weird, I gotta say. And
yeah,
sometimes you the forums for live, which is its own issue. People say, "Well, those rules don't make any sense," and other people say, "Well, that's what it is, stupid." But they don't
yeah,
honestly. They don't make sense. It's just that's what they are, and you just have to go, okay, that's what they
yeah. I
say,
think
and that's
some of
how
them
it
make
always been.
sense. I think a bunch make sense, but there are definitely some that are a little weird.
Yeah. But they want a distinction between damaging and placing damage, and which is fine. It's not intuitive, I wouldn't say, until you start to understand the rulings.
Yeah, and in some sense, like there's not really much of a reason for damage counters. Um, sure they have like some place, but they're
Right.
kind of just confusing, especially to
Yeah,
a newer
but
player, like or even like a not super new, but like a moderately new player. They often get confused about it.
it's a weird thing, right? Because this like Psywave does 20 damage, so that's actually 2 damage counters, right?
Yeah,
So I don't know why do they have besides why do they have these different things? I don't fully know, but
yeah, and then you'll see even like top players and like YouTube. Someone's like, yeah, this attack does like it does uh
100
like
damage
200, yeah,
counters.
like 100 damage counters, and it's like, well,
Like
no,
what?
it doesn't do that. So, and you'll definitely hear that said sometimes, and it's funny, and obviously very wrong. It doesn't just like win the game.
Right, and Sableye does not place 12
120.
damage,
Yeah, it doesn't
or
place 12 damage.
because that wouldn't be very good.
No, that wouldn't really make any sense.
But yeah, so anyway, so the card's interesting. I'm concerned that it could kind of be overpowering. I'd like
Yeah,
to see
that's
something to control it.
fair. I don't know if it would be too good. It works with the spread-based attacks, right? Because I think that's most of what it works with. And spread isn't that good outside of Sableye, but you can put the Nails counters where you want in the first place anyway, so that doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, maybe Urshifu. Well, Urshifu will have rotated, but like theoretically Urshifu. Um, I can't really think of too much, but it might allow certain other Pokemon to see play that don't as well, which would be cool, I
Right.
think.
Yeah, as long right. I mean, I'm a, I think we both. If it opens up more possibilities, it's good. If it creates something that just overwhelms, that's bad. I still suspect that Alakazam EX, there's probably some option in expanded that's just overwhelming, but nobody cares about expanded.
Yeah, I actually was because I've been playing some in person. I saw two people play and expanded in person, and they were like, "Yeah, this like really sucks because the deck's just like so broken."
Which isn't good. So you want to build the best deck you can, but you don't want things a few decks to be too good.
Yeah,
And that's up to the designers. So okay,
but
so
I think this
this
was a
is
cool era. Do you think this was also a cool era?
I think looking at these are interesting decks. Now hopefully you have more decks than these around
Yeah.
that were
Here, look
viable.
at this is the you can look at decks and then you can do on lim are you in Limitless? You are, right?
I can
S- And I'll show this to anyone who's watching the video as well, and I'll say it out loud. So you go to the deck section, you change the tournament filters, and
decks.
then you go
Okay,
to standard and Sun and Moon through Lost Thunder is the
wait.
format.
I go to what decks?
Yeah,
Oh, decks in the database, the search area.
yeah.
Wait,
No decks. You
and then
click decks at the top, and then
oh
you
wait,
say
not
edit tournament filter.
I'm in the wrong area. I think. Wait, unlimitless, correct?
Yeah, regular Limitless, not play Limitless. You
Regular
say
limitless
decks.
decks. Okay. Oh, permanent filter.
Yeah, and then edit, and then uncheck whatever is selected, and then do Sun and Moon through Lost Thunder.
Is that what format?
Yeah,
Okay,
under yeah.
that's that is well. Keep going. Sun and Moon to Lost Thunder.
Yeah, you'll get there. You'll get there. It's the end of the this podcast, so we don't need audience retention anyway. They've all
I'm
left.
having a hard time. I'm a little confused by what's happening. I think I'm in the slightly wrong thing. So
Under
let's not worry
standard
about that.
formats,
Yeah, format under standard.
yeah, and you should see a bunch of like sets, right?
Yeah, I see standard. I go Sun and Moon, and I pick a set from
No,
that. Lost
it says
Thunder.
Sun and Moon. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You see it?
I see Sun and Moon, Lost Thunder.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's
Oh,
yeah, it's
I
Sun and
thought it
Moon.
was.
Well, it is Sun and Moon through Lost Thunder. That it's written. It's the dash is
Oh,
like
okay.
two.
Oh, okay. I see. So
Yeah,
just hit that.
yeah.
Apply. Okay. So Zoroark, Blacephalon, GX, Malamar,
And I'd recommend splitting it up as
Granville.
well, and then you'll see that you see like things
Oh,
being mixed
click
and
into
matched.
split. Okay.
Like
Yeah.
Zoroark, Lycanroc. We talked about Lycanroc with Buzzwole. And then you can see Buzzwole, Lycanroc, Ninetales, Passimian Tapu Koko, which we looked at. Oh, it's a
Mhm.
deck that you'll like, Ultra Malamar.
Anything. Oh, Ultimate. That's got to be good.
Yeah,
Now,
that'll
I
be.
don't like the fact that like top deck is 17% played, right?
Yeah, Blacephalon Naganadel was
But
is the big one-shot deck. It got better with Welder, but before then, arguably you could look at the format before through Celestial Storm, and even
mhm,
before as well. You had like EXs, but um, I think oh, and then Vikavolt Rayquaza was like a big one-shot deck. But for the
mhm.
most part, all these other decks are like you got a lot of variety, and you can mix
Yeah,
and
once
match
you
to your
get.
own liking.
Yeah, I mean, and I think what people said this was a good format, and then once they added the tag teams, that's where they kind of jumped the shark. The
Yeah.
three prizes and stuff was a bad thing in a lot of people's eyes, right?
Yeah, I didn't think it was that bad, but I thought I definitely see the gameplay can be kind of not fun as well.
And that certainly paved the way to the V Maxes, right? Having the three prizes led to the three prizes in the V Maxes, and finally, and it wasn't until Scarlet and Violet they've now gone back to two prizes. We'll see if they stay in one and two prizes or not.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think the game's fun right now. But I think I think I've said this before, switching you want to be able to switch between different formats as well, and that makes the game more fun. And you can't really do that too much in live. But all these cards are playable in live. Well, unless they're banned, which I don't know if any are. So they're not necessarily good. You're going to be playing against better decks, but actually you probably won't. You'll probably be playing against a garbage deck, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, right, live expanded is weird, and I was look, and we're been going long here, but they need to add some formats besides standard that you can challenge people in, and they need to fix it up too.
Yeah. But I think that's it for today. So if you enjoyed, subscribe to our channels. 10 Types in Uncommon Fossil over on YouTube. Check us out on podcast platforms as well. If you want to listen there, you can do that. Um, and we're excited to see you next time.
Take care.